Yesterday, he celebrated Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday being a euphemism for jerking off. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on the church. Get it on. Phil Heath, bodybuilder, 7-time Mr. Olympia winner, is in studio. Very good doc, Breaking Olympia, the Phil Heath story. The Rock, Dwayne, was one of the producers, all over it, on camera as well. How'd that come about?
Well, I was introduced to this project by a gentleman by the name of Adam Scorgie of Scorgie Productions. Him and Brett Harvey was the director, and they were like, hey, we have this really cool idea, following you around, talking about you as the person, not just as the bodybuilder. And I was like, what's it called? And they're like, Breaking Olympia. I was like, oh, shoot. Man, this is an interesting title. So, you know, I initially thought it was going to be extremely negative, you know, and because I figured that's what sells. But no, they were like, let's peel back the onion. Let's go deep. And we did that. And they provided an opportunity for me to really see myself in a different light, you know, going through various topics, not just in bodybuilding, but just overall, like how I grew up in Seattle, Washington, you know, playing high school hoops, going to college, having mental struggles with, you know, wanting to be the man and not get the playing time that I thought I was owed. And then how I pivoted into the sport of bodybuilding and made a career out of it.
Yeah. Sports is one of those things that says no. At a certain point, I've been there myself, and it doesn't really matter how much you want it.
Yeah,
it just says no. Whereas society should do a little more of that. Like I know guys that have been trying to come out with a country album for 30 years, and they never have. I know guys who says they got a book in them, but they never write it.
Right.
But and so many other facets of society just don't do a hard out, just go, you're out. Sports does it.
Yeah.
Sports just goes, we're done.
Yep.
And you can want and dream and hope and have every poster on the wall when you were a kid and all the fantasies of glory, but it just goes, we're done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it definitely did that for me. But it also, you know, through that process allowed me to recognize that, like you said, just because you show up at work every day doesn't mean that you're owed a damn thing. And when I hit that 000, you know, when you're seeing the clock go to zero.
Your last game. And in college.
Yeah, in college, you realize that you're not a student athlete anymore. You're just a student. And, you know, your whole identity was wrapped into sports, not just being a student.
Yeah.
You know, just how you were looked at on campus and stuff like that. And that all went away just like that, man.
Yeah, I think something we're missing now in this chapter of our society is men especially, and women as well, but maybe women get a little more out of it with kids and family and stuff like that. But men need to feel good at something. You know what I mean? It's a big part of your identity.
100%.
Like a career, a skill, a something. Like, you know, even when I was very poor and I was a carpenter and I was struggling, I still felt good that I was a carpenter. Like I had a skill, you know, and it kind of keeps your head held up a little bit. And then the ability to transition as you did from, you know, your goal would be to play in the NBA. Right. But it wasn't going to happen. And so then you became the best at something else. I mean, you kind of became the Michael Jordan of bodybuilding. But you grew up watching Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, all those guys. And, you know, I had sort of, you know, a much smaller scale. Like I had the same thing. Like I love sports. And then at some point it's like someone said, no more sports. And then I went, well, now what? And then, but I ended up doing comedy. So then I went, oh, now I feel good about something else. Something has replaced it. And I think we're losing our way a little bit with young dudes in this society.
Oh my gosh. Yes, they are. And I think they're wrapping their heads around, oh, I want to be the next YouTube star, when really I think they should be reapplying themselves into some type of skill, like you said, whether it be a carpenter, whether it be an engineer. I mean, we're talking about AI taking over the world and stuff like that. We should get more computer scientists going around. We should get more mechanical, electrical engineers. Everybody isn't going to be that next YouTuber, that next TikToker. And I always tell the young people now is like, what if that got shut off? Like, what skill are you proficient at? Because now we have a lot of fake gurus out there making money on people, scamming people. I think it comes down to the matter of intention. And I truly believe, like, if you lead with the proper intentions of life, you have no regrets. But overall, it really starts with, who am I? And what am I truly about? Like, what is my code of conduct? And I think for most young men, especially, they have none. They have no code of conduct. They the way they talk, the way you just watch how they post nonsense, like nothing of real value. And because of someone else getting rewarded for it and making a little bit of money, they think that, oh, I'll just monkey see, monkey do this thing. And it's like, dude, you're going to be 30 years old one day. You're going to be 35 and you're going to have nothing to really show for your effort.
Yeah. And it breeds a kind of an emptiness. And then when you have that kind of emptiness, you will pretty much do anything because you don't have any value. I mean, I distinctly remember being sort of 19 and sort of having no rudder. And like, I tell people all the time, if someone said to me, I'll offer you $5,000 to go to Mexico and bring some drugs back, I would have went, yeah, okay. Like, why not? There's not. What am I missing out on? I mean, I would ride my motorcycle in the rain all the time with a slick back tire, worn out, and I would think to myself, well, what if you get hit? What if you get in an accident? And it's like everything's kind of a lateral move. It's like saying taking kids that are in the inner city and have nothing to look forward to. Prison is kind of a lateral move. I mean, it's not that much worse than whatever it is they had, and that's a dangerous place to be at as a society.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think what we're talking about now is that they have no hope and they have no real role models, right? Who are their role models? And I haven't really asked a lot of people. I mean, I'm 44 years old. I haven't asked a lot of guys that come up to me at booths, at expos and stuff like, who are your role models? What do they do? And what do you really want to do? Or better yet, what do you want to be remembered for? Like today,
right?
Like seriously. I remember when I was 17 years old, I was being interviewed by the Seattle Times because I had just signed my letter of intent for the University of Denver. And they were like, oh, yeah, I know you have all these high hopes of playing, in college and maybe at the next level. What is the real goal? And I said, I don't know about the NBA, but I plan on being professional at something. And that was like godsend. Right. Because deep down in my core, my intention was to be pro at something. I want to be proficient, whether it be, like you said, like being a carpenter, being a janitor. I don't give a shit. Like I want to be great at something. I want to be remembered as a person that had great intentions, that really gave a damn about his own success, understood that there's going to be various unknowns. And I think that's the other part of success that a lot of people don't realize is that the hero's journey is very, very strange. It's very, it's a minefield, right? Like we always hear about it. It's a tactical minefield that you have no map and you have to be really, disciplined. And your goal has to always be that I must win. I will win at something. And a lot of people, I just feel like I experienced it too. Don't get me wrong. Like when I was basically told that you're not going to get any minutes in college, man, I was suicidal, man. It's like, what the hell is going on? And I didn't see the alchemy within this life of realizing that, wait a minute, you have a Division I scholarship no matter what. Just don't mess that up. You may not get the minutes, but you're still traveling with the team. You're still, if anything, you're going to be a great coach one day because you're able to watch and discern like how the place is supposed to be ran. And I was just trying to see the better light at the end of the tunnel. But unfortunately, with this world, how dark it is, we forget that we are the light and we're the ones that can navigate through that.
What, to me, the discipline of bodybuilding, probably more so than almost any other sport, I don't know, cross-country skiing or something. It might take a lot of discipline. Like, I just feel like that's a universal thing that you can then fold into almost any endeavor. This sort of you breaking yourself on a daily basis when you're training.
Yep.
And it never goes away because if you're if you're a football player, basketball player, whatever, you're an athlete, and you go and you train all day, but that night you can eat something good.
Yeah, you can eat, you can drink.
Because you've been training all day.
Right.
It follows you home from the gym, right? There's nothing.
No, there's nothing. I mean, in fact, you know, like when you watch Breaking Olympia, you're able to see me go through the different phases, right? And although I was winning those competitions, I didn't have a summer for like 10 plus years because the Olympia was always held in like mid to late September. Mm-hmm. So my diet would start before 4th of July weekend. So that meant no barbecues, no summer vacations, no weddings. And if there was a wedding, I had to bring my own meals. There was no champagne toast. There was no like, oh yeah, let's have like for instance, my high school teammate was Jamal Crawford that played in the NBA for a long time, right? He was getting married. He was like, Phil, I want you to come to my wedding. You're going to meet like all my old teammates. You know, he played for the Clippers at the time. Yeah. I'm like, this is dope, man. I get to meet all these guys and, you know, get to hear Brian McKnight sing and all these other people. Like, this is sick. And I realized, Phil, like you have to bring your own meals because you're 4 weeks out from the Olympia. So I'm now having to sneak away to go to the parking lot and go eat there because I'm not going to bring it back up because everybody's going to say, oh, what is that? You know, what are you eating? Why are you doing that?
What would that meal be for you?
It was basic chicken breast, broccoli, rice. You know, I had some red meat, but I mean, it wasn't anything of flavor. It wasn't anything of, you know, like what they were eating. You know, they're having, you know, shrimp cocktail and, you know, tequila. You know, right. I'm like, shit, I want that. And the worst part I ain't gonna lie about that wedding was it was past midnight and I'm like, I gotta go to bed. I gotta get some sleep. I got a flight the next day. And my boy was like, bro, you gotta stay. And I was like, why? For you, I'll do anything, but why? And he goes, Sir Mix-a-Lot is here. I said, okay. You know, being from Seattle, you know, you're like, my posse's on Broadway. Okay, let's go. And then he brings out those burgers from Dick's Burgers on Broadway, the famous burger joint that even Bill Gates had to wait in line for. Mm-hmm. And he brings them out, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I thought that was going to be my breaking point, like where I was going to cheat on my diet. And I was like, dude, the Olympia or nothing, man. Just like I say in the Breaking Olympia, the Olympia or nothing. You have to complete the mission, dude. I don't give a damn what those burgers will stay there. And it is like a psychological warfare that you go through because I think everyone has this emotional connection with food and drink, whether it be sodas, you know, flavored drinks, or even alcohol. We all have that emotional attachment to food. And I sure as hell do. But, you know, those are just one of those examples of how you have to say, when you're getting ready for such a thing like the Olympia, there is no off switch. Like you are locked in, like all your minutes throughout the day are accounted for. And if not, you're probably going to get beat by someone that did do that.
Well, the problem with food and working out and life and everything, just everything, is there's a pretty much straight across the board one for one. Like, you know, someone will go, oh, I got this smoothie. I go, does it taste good? And they go, yeah, it's good. I go, okay, then it's bad for you. like literally, I remember talking to Vinny Tortorich, our health guy here once, and I said, is there any kind of breakfast bars or any kind of bar that I could eat? Anything. And he's like, they're all shit, you know. And then I go, he goes, there's one you could eat. And I said, oh, okay. Is it like peanut butter or what's it taste like? S'mores? You know, he's like, it's just buffalo meat. And I'm like, yeah, I'm picturing something like a peanut butter kind of center.
Yeah,
and he's like, no,
buffalo
they're just
meat.
the buffalo meat bar. And you're like, but that tastes like shit. And I realize it's just life. That's all of life. Just all the work, all the times how many parties did you miss?
Yeah.
How many nights did you stay home studying? I mean, whatever your profession is, whatever the goal is, there's this straight ratio of how much shit can you tolerate that you don't want to do. Mm-hmm. And the people who have a high tolerance for it, like delayed gratification.
There it is.
The delayed gratification thing, that's about it. You know, if you get a kid and you go, here's 10 M&Ms, but if you don't eat them for an hour, I'll give you 5 more, whatever. The kids who don't eat them end up doing real good in life. And the ones that go, fuck it, I'm eating them now, they have a lot of problems. Everyone you know who's not doing well has a problem with the delayed gratification stuff. And what you're doing, your profession, your endeavor, that's all it is.
Right.
It's one big fat delayed gratification.
Ooh, boy. Yes, it is. And I think the kicker is, okay, you screw this up, you have to be adjudicated by judges, also people now online and in the audience with you wearing very little clothing.
Yes.
That part right there should scare you to where you will stay on that diet. You will overtrain if you have to. But there is always one person, always, whether it be at an amateur show or even a pro show or even at the Mr. Olympia show, the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, that just shit the sheets, man. Like, they just really screwed this up, and it was because of their lack of discipline. And, you know, some people, you know, they overthink it.
What day of, 2 days out, 24 hours out, in terms of the event? And now we all know diet and all the, you know, chicken breast and brown rice and broccolini and everything. But day of, there's got to be a lot of alchemy going on with salt, with fluids, with hydrate, with dehydrate.
Everyone's different. You know, everyone's different with that. So it's no cookie cutter program.
Oh, there isn't one just sort of straight line.
You would think so, but the body's too dynamic. So even for me, what worked for my first Mr. Olympia win did not work for the third one.
Really?
Yeah, because now you're dealing with a different, you know, body. You're gaining muscle in different areas every year. And it also depends on just your biorhythms, man. Like, it's a 2-day competition for the Mr. Olympia, which is extremely stressful. Normally, it's just a 1-day show. You have like a show at noon, and then you come back at 6 o'clock, and you're out of there by 9:30. At the Mr. Olympia, you're competing at like 7 p.m. You may not go on until 9:30 because of other divisions. So now it's just the timing. So you have to figure out, like for me, I always realize, okay, you're probably going to be going on stage after 9 p.m. So that means 9 p.m. what time? Is that Pacific time, Mountain time, Central, East? Like, okay, this is Pacific time. You live in Denver. Okay, that means that's 10 p.m. your time. Oh, you should probably train at 10 p.m. You should probably train
leading up to it.
The whole prep. You should be able to do that because number one, there's going to be no distractions because the gym is actually closed, and I actually had keys, so that worked out well in my favor. But then also, now I get to see, after, you know, ingesting all that food throughout the day, the water, everything, how I look. So I would take the progress pictures at 10 or let's say midnight, because I figure, oh wow, like everybody looks great. Like when people take pictures of themselves and they share online, it's always first thing in the morning.
Right.
It's always because you wake up dry. You wake up leaner. Your stomach is flat because, you know, you fasted. So yeah, that's easy to look great. But then what about after you've ingested all that food? Like I just said, like you may not look as lean. You may have a little film of water. So I would always base it off of that look. And then as I got closer and closer to the show, I realized, wow, like you're actually looking, the way that you wake up in the morning, you might be a little flat, but then you're still dry throughout the day because your body is just churning. Like your body's a machine. Like you eat, you go to the bathroom. You drink something, you go to the bathroom. Like you're not holding on to anything extra. And you go up on stage and you're just ready, you're primed. But it's always about the nutrient timing. It's always about running that world-class, world record, Olympic record speed in the final, not at the semis or the quarters. And that's where it becomes very, very difficult to do.
Who are some of your heroes? I mean, obviously you grew up, you were watching Schwarzenegger and, you know, Pumping Iron. I guess that's what everybody watched the shit out of back
Did you
then.
watch it?
Yeah, I you know, I'm older than you, but everyone knew Schwarzenegger.
Right.
You know, Lou Ferrigno was interesting because he was longer, you know, taller guy, like a real just big. I don't know,
Big,
6'4".
Yeah,
I don't.
300 pounds, man, like on stage. Dude, this guy was
The
a
Hulk,
monster.
yeah, and there were other guys like Franco Columbo or something. Like the more compact guys, so they're probably a little easier for them than the longer
I'd agree.
guys.
Yeah, I'd agree. The guys that I watched growing up, I mean, they weren't even bodybuilders. I mean, you know, like we mentioned before, it was Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson. I was always in the hoops, so it was those two. Bo Jackson, two-sport athlete. We all know Bo knows, man. Like that guy was just lethal. Deion Sanders, same. Carl Lewis, everybody in the 80s and early 90s. I mean, even like, what was his name? The Catholic, Dan O'Brien. Like, remember that guy? Like,
yes.
Yeah, like those guys were like heroes because they could do so many things. And I always admired people that could do more than one sport and just exemplified like greatness. But then obviously I was very privileged to being able to watch a bunch of R-rated movies with my pops. So like I could watch all of those Arnold Schwarzenegger films. I could watch Rambo, and just seeing these guys already, it's kind of funny now because you watch it, you're like, they're all oiled up and stuff, ripped to shreds, holding a freaking machine gun,
It's 5 a.m. that morning.
Yeah.
But it was sick. Like I just loved watching bodies in motion and just the muscles. Even like old school Mike Tyson, when he came out, he was not small. Like he was a, kid dynamite, just tremendously tough. Like everybody was tough. And, that's really what inspired me to, be competitive. And I always knew that like, if you watch the 80s and 90s, those athletes gave a shit about everything, man. Like they took things personal when they played football or basketball or even the Olympics. Like we all watched with great intention of saying, that's my country. I love it. Now it's kind of like no big deal.
After the football games, everyone's exchanging jerseys and getting in the prayer circle and hugging it out. Listen, I grew up, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Steel Curtain,
Mean Joe Green, Jack Lambert. Hated those guys. Donnie Shell, all those, Mel Blount. And they were destroying people. Like, I mean, they would intentionally hurt people, and there's no way after the game that Dallas Cowboys would be hugging it out with the Pittsburgh Steelers and exchanging jerseys. Jack Lambert's going to give Roger Staubach his jersey. That was just, and that was part of it. I mean, for me, because it was sort of like, when you watch a superhero movie, you're like, that guy hates that guy, and then they're going to fight. But then they never hug it out or anything. No. It's just, Schwarzenegger had to get rid of Predator.
He had to kill him.
And
he killed himself. It's so badass.
Not no olive branch being offered. And I liked the world where these guys hated each other full time.
Yeah.
And now everyone's just an athlete, and they're all getting traded to the next team the next day anyway. So you don't want to piss off the guy and the team you're going to go to in 2 years or whatever.
Don't you find that like soft?
I like the fact that I'm in North Hollywood, California, and I can name every starter on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense because they were together for like 9 years.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the 9 years was from the time I was age 11 to the time I graduated high school. So that's all I saw. Like, it just seemed like they would, L.C. Greenwood and Jack Ham and Wagner was a DB. Like, I think I could literally go through, like I could probably go through the Brady Bunch and tell you who everybody was. And they never went anywhere. There's no such thing as... Jack Lambert was never going to be a Washington Redskin. Like, he was never going to go anywhere. He's a Steeler.
Right.
He loved the Steelers. He bled, the steel, black and gold, And I thought it was, in terms of a narrative, it was funner.
I think so, too. I mean, you'll see, like, in Breaking Olympia, my arch nemesis was Kai Green, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't fucking like him. He didn't like me either. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were both going for the elite of the elite title. The Super Bowl of bodybuilding, the Mr. Olympia. He had won the Arnold Classic. I remember him beating me in 2010, and it pissed me the F off like so bad. I remember thinking to myself, wait a minute, let me see this freaking score sheet. I see the score sheet. At prejudging, I'm up by 3 points, and at night, I'm down by 7 at the end of it all. And I'm like, that's a 10-point swing. How the hell? I'm still flabbergasted over that shit. But you know what it told me? I said, you will never lose to this dude again. And even as I say it with this conviction, I'm like, I meant that shit. You know what I mean? Like,
do you think you need that for this kind of focus?
You have to. Like, you think the Red Sox and the Yankees should be friends? Like, no, we don't expect it to be that way. Do we expect the Red Wings and the Avs to be friends? No, it's not supposed to be that way. And I just feel like it drives the competitive spirit from within. You should... Coke and Pepsi, like there should never be a collab. It's just the way it is, dude. Pick a side, and I think, as I sit here, I think about those moments. I would never change a freaking thing because I was just bred different. Like I went to Rainier Beach High School. There were schools that we freaking despise. Like I would never be I'm friends with them now, I guess. Like one of my friends is Nate Burleson. You know who Nate is. So we grew up together, right? We went to elementary school, me and his brother Kevin. He went to him and his brother went to O'Day High School. You think we liked those guys? We were from the inner city. That school was the Catholic school that, was rich kids and stuff. We were like, hell no. You mentioned O'Day around me, I'm like, where? You know what I mean? And it's been 25 years. But I feel like nowadays, like you said, I would never exchange a jersey with somebody. Like, who the hell started that shit? And it's all about like the participation medal stuff. I think the AAU circuit in basketball, it ruined it all because everybody's playing on different teams and they're forming these super teams when they're like 10, 12, 13 years old. So then like no one's picking a side, you know what I'm saying? Like you look at guys like Kawhi Leonard, like he's probably like the best example of like, I'm just here.
Yeah.
I don't need to be, you know what I'm saying? I would rather play with the same guys, but I don't need to jump ship and go here. I mean, kudos to LeBron figuring out the method, but at the same time, I feel like I would love to just see, like you said, like these players play for like an extended period of time so we get to know them. We get to see like how they champion through adversity and create their own dynasty for a long haul, Could you imagine if the Oklahoma City Thunder would have never got rid of Kevin Durant, James Harden, Westbrook?
Right.
Yeah. Like they would have easily been like a dynasty in my opinion. Like with Ibaka, with all these guys. I mean, let's be honest, like that team was very, very close. And the minute they broke up, that whole franchise is like nowhere to be found. I mean, it's just bring back competitive spirit. I do feel like all these athletes that are getting paid a lot of money, I mean, they're being competitive at a certain extent, but I have no problem with the guy getting in someone's face and saying, no, not today. No, not today. Like set a hard screen. And I'm a basketball guy, right? So it's more like set a hard pick. Guys going for a dunk, like, nowadays, like you blow on somebody that you're getting a foul. Or if you look at the ref, you're getting a tech. It's like, we just watched, I think it was a game last night. Was it a girl from Stanford? She like fouled this other girl from, I think it was Iowa State. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was a really hard foul.
The elbow to the face.
I mean, it happens, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, listen.
I got stitches. It is what it is, bro. Like, it's the game. It's part of the game.
Listen, I was on a delayed flight out of Florida last night, and there was a guy on the flight, and the flight attendant, female, said something like, you got to take your stuff, your jacket off the thing. We're doing gate checks. It's too full or whatever. And he just kind of looked back at her, and it was his jacket that was in the overhead. And he goes, well, that's not taking up any room. And she's like, take it down or something. And he shot a little sass at her. And then she goes, do you want to be on this flight or not? And he goes, oh, no, sorry. I do want to be on this flight. And she goes, okay. She goes out, gets an air marshal. And 5 minutes later, the air marshal walks back, says to the guy, he's just sitting in a seat now. It's not like they're scrapping or anything. It's like, you're out of here. Get your stuff. And the guy's like, no, seriously, like, sorry, I'm just sitting here.
So he had already complied after he had barked back a little bit.
She asked, do you want to leave? And he said, no, sorry, I don't. I'll sit here.
And she still went ahead.
She still went. Because we're in this weird disrespect zone or something.
I hate it,
policy.
dude. Now I'm like adjusting my seat because this is a true piece of shit. And I hate to say it like that, but like people make mistakes, dude. Like travelers. My wife and I, we were just coming back from England, right? We're at the Arnold Classic. And good Lord, man, like we were in Birmingham Airport. It's TSA there is just terrible. They have like the ancient ass machines there, like ancient. Mm-hmm. So they're going through everyone's stuff. So they're going through our stuff, and my wife has, makeup and stuff like that. So they're going through this. They're like, what's this? What's this? And she's got meds and stuff, and you can't denature it by opening it up and putting your fingers in it. They do it.
Really?
They freaking do it. And I'm standing there like, this is really going on right now. And we're trying to explain to them like, hey, this is actual medication. It's got her name on it. Oh, let's see your passport. I'm like, there's no way she could have got through here without it. Like already, like what are we doing?
Right.
So now she's upset because they don't even have, get this, they have like regular gloves that you go plant with, like in the dirt.
Like gardening gloves.
Gardening gloves. Going through, like, oh, is anything sharp going to touch? It's like, no, but you're not going to touch this medication. She's got B12, stuff like that, trying to keep herself healthy, keep herself right. And I'm looking at the guy, I'm like, this is my wife's stuff. This is my stuff. Please don't touch it because you're denaturing the product inside. And there's like, well, we know the law and this is not the US. I'm like, you don't know the law because it's global, dude. Like you can't and use common sense.
Yes.
So of course, we're just explaining ourselves. Now they're getting tired of hearing it. So this guy comes over, he yells at my wife. Now I'm like, hey, like, we're just trying to get through this, like, let's just be cool, man. Like, I'm just like, hey, be cool. And then my wife's like almost in tears because she's like, look, like, take the freaking makeup. Like, I don't care, but don't touch my medication. Like, I've answered your questions. I've done everything you told me to do, and you still won't do it. And I said, why can't you just use nitrile gloves? And the lady says, because, sir, that's for pat downs before you go through the scanner. And I go, but you want to touch? This makes no freaking sense. So long and the short of it, this guy comes over and he's like trying to intimidate my wife. And I said, excuse me, what are you talking about? And he goes, so then, of course, he now runs over, is like, I'm just going to call the cops and stuff like that. And I'm like, I guess you got to do what you got to do at this point. So he goes over, brings over the cops. My wife's like, she said it right in front of these guys. She's like, we're calling our attorney. You guys are going to get in mad trouble now. Like, this is like, one thing goes to another. Like, you're going to get sued. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, we got attorneys in freaking England too. Okay. So anyway, we're going through this. The cop comes over. He's like, and I see it's being recorded. He's got the little badge thing on. And then this guy comes up who was already talking shit. And long and the short of it, he says, oh, he tried to intimidate me. I go, so I told the cop, I go, he's just pissed because I'm bigger than him. And I just was looking at him in the eye and I was trying to communicate. He was trying to hit me. I said,
Oh my God.
You're now lying. I said, pull up the cameras. I said, I'm not here for this shit. At the same time, man, they denatured the product. We're pissed off. You treat us like garbage. And the cop says, you know what? Of course he's going to say that. Of course that guy's going to say that. Do you want to go on your flight or not? I said, we want to leave. He says, free to go. And it's just like 35 minutes.
Why?
Yes.
For nothing. Just a waste of time because someone wants to feel like they're, and this is how, I mean, he was this big and he just felt like, oh, well, I'm intimidated. He was one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, we gave a whole bunch of angry women and former nerds all the fucking power. Like, I have a chapter in my book, maybe we'll get to it in the first book, but it was called Minimum Wage Gilded Cage, where I basically just said we took the dumbest, angriest, loserest people from high school and put them in charge of whether you get on that plane or get off. Like, they're the gatekeepers to whether you get to come back. You know, you leave the movie theater to go get your wife's sweater out of the car, and then you can't find your stub, and then the guy's like, you can't come back in, and you go, you saw me walk out 10 seconds ago, I can't let you. But these are the dumbest, and we put them all in charge of everything. This chick flight attendant did not look as good in a Speedo as you would look. She was a little heavy set, a little beleaguered, a little put upon. Probably had a guy, maybe dad, didn't treat her right. And then all of a sudden there's an exchange and this dude becomes dad in the exchange, except for this is different. Now she's got the power and she's going to exploit the shit out of it. And she just tossed this guy off the plane. This was the last flight out. It was delayed over an hour. You know, this guy's night and day is ruined. I mean, God knows. He's got somebody coming to pick him up in L.A. He's got to go find a hotel room somewhere in Florida.
They're projecting their personal issues on other people.
And we've decided in the name of safety, then they get to do whatever they want at all times. Most of it is nothing burgers that escalate into a sort of battle of who's... You know, they're battling over some turf that's not even their own. You know what I mean? Like, bitch, you don't own this airplane. You don't do any. You're the lowest paid person on this airplane. The guy said, sorry, just keep walking.
And what's the problem with just saying, you know what? All right. Well, you know, like, she doesn't even know what escalated thereafter. Maybe this guy, was Michael Douglas and falling down and just had a moment, man. And really went off after that.
The flight's an hour late. It's over an hour delayed, and it's fully packed, so people are getting their baggage checked at the gate and stuff. And so people are already a little like, okay, it's late. We've been waiting here for too long. Just give him a little, cut him a little courtesy. Mm-hmm. Sorry, do you have that, Dawson? I don't know why it reminded me of this, but.
Which story are we looking for?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll get into it. But
He's paying too much money, that's for sure.
There are two quick examples here.
All I'm basically saying is taking the angriest people from high school and putting them in charge. And by the way, all she has to do is, you don't have to have any exchange with her. She can just not like you, and she can go get the sky marshal, and he'll just walk you off. And once the sky marshal comes in and says, get your stuff, you can't go, please, this is nothing.
There's no reason to
sit here. Like, no, you're getting off this plane. Now you can do it the easy way or the hard way.
Wow.
But that guy got booted.
Oh, man.
All right,
You say we made a mistake in this country that will rank right up there with slavery and Japanese internment camps. We've deputized a bunch of minimum wagers and placed them in every guard shack, behind every counter, at every gate, and gave them carte blanche to fuck with us. We're essentially prisoners in a penitentiary that we paid for.
All right. Phil Heath, I know you got a heart out, so let me give you a plug. Breaking Olympia, the Phil Heath story, is a very good doc, very well made as well.
Thank you.
And I make docs, so I can tell the cheap ones. This is not that. Available now on digital platforms, including Amazon. Chris Hansen is out there. He came early, so maybe we'll just bring him in.
Yeah.
I got lots of stories from the road, and we'll get into that. Good to see you, Phil.
No, thank you.
And congratulations. We'll talk to Chris Hansen. Hopefully he doesn't recognize you when you walk out. Or maybe just from the Olympia competitions.
There you go.
And we'll do that right after this. Here's a question. Want better sex? Yes. Best way to get started is to go to adamandeve.com. Do it right now. 50% off just about any item, plus free shipping, including rush processing. Doesn't matter how much you spend or what you buy. All will be packaged and sent directly, free and fast. That's 50% off one item, free shipping with free rush processing. Just go to adamandeve.com, select any one item, and enter the offer code ACE at checkout. That's ACE at adamandeve.com. Am I right, Dawson?
This is an exclusive offer to this podcast, so be sure to use the code ACE to get your discount. 100% free shipping, and get it fast with rush processing. Code ACE.
Hydro, don't think you have enough time for fitness goals? Well, Hydro, that's a remarkable rowers. I use Hydro, and I have for a long time. I think before they were sponsors. Anyway, you do it in 20 minutes. And what I do is I just put on my favorite TV show and just crank it up and row hard for 20 minutes, and I'm done. It's a full body workout. It's easy. It's designed by rowers. It works 86% of your muscles with minimal risk. It looks nice, doesn't take up much room. It's just a whole body workout. Just fire it up, watch TMZ, and just row away every day. Workouts led by Olympians and filmed all over the world. Hydro keeps you motivated. 90% of customers are still active 1 year later. Free standard shipping, 30-day risk-free trial, 1-year warranty. I use it. And again, no excuses. Full body workout in 20 minutes. It's Hydro, right, Dawson?
This spring, join the growing rowing community at Hydro. Head over to hydro.com and use code ADAM to save up to $400 off your Hydro. That's HYDROW.com, code ADAM, to save $400. Hydro.com, code ADAM. In honor of Jim Carolla's 92nd birthday, here's a list of all the things Adam Carolla will do before he dies. Step down as an elected official due to scandal. Just one of the things Adam will do before he dies. Let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Chris Hansen back in studios. Got lots of irons in the fire. True Crime Nation with Chris Hansen. That's streaming on TruBlu. streaming network as we speak. And then it's got a podcast, also a Takedown show that updates To Catch a Predator. And the podcast, Predators I've Caught with Chris Hansen as well, wherever you find a podcast. Good to see you, Chris.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Now, you're a guy who can see through a lie.
I'm pretty good at
You're
it.
pretty good. So you tell me if you think this was a lie. All right? Now, Mike August, who you've probably met, books the show, travels
Right.
around with me, been around for a long time. Mike August.
Oh no.
Now, I'm starting to figure out that there's some new form of lying, and I don't know what it is. We used to call people liars, but we don't call people liars anymore, but the lying is still there. We just call them something else.
Being deceptive.
Yeah, so Mike is a lot like Fonzie in that he doesn't like to say he was wrong. He
Right.
just kind of moves on to the next the next thing. I've had many, many arguments with him over the years, but you tell me if this is a lie. You ready?
Ready.
All right. We just get back from Florida, and he tells me before we leave on Wednesday night, he says to me, bring a blazer because we're going to Mar-a-Lago, and you can't get in without a blazer. I say, okay, noted. I'll make myself a note. I've packed for 1,000 comedy trips, and I've never brought a blazer, but I'll try to make a note to bring the blazer. He goes, don't forget the blazer because you got to get into Mar-a-Lago. I said, okay. And I got up the following morning to leave for the airport, and it struck me, oh, I need my blazer.
Right. Let's grab that.
So let's grab that blazer. Then I get to Florida with Mike, and we're at the Airbnb, and he goes, I got to go out and do a little shopping. I said, what are you shopping for? He goes, I got to get a blazer. I said, oh, you forgot your blazer? And he goes, no, I didn't forget it. I packed, and then I didn't want to have to go up and wake up the kids and the family to get the blazer.
Do they sleep in the blazer room?
They sleep in the closet, evidently. I said,
It's a special blazer room.
but Mike, you're super cheap, right? He goes, yeah. I go, okay. So you forgot your blazer, right? You forgot it, right? And he goes, no, I didn't want to go. I'm leaving early. I'm leaving my house early. Everyone was asleep. I don't want to wake them up.
Yeah, I have like 10 blazers. What are you talking
I said,
about?
Mike, who are you talking to? You forgot
we've
your
worked together a
blazer.
long
You
time.
reminded me to take my blazer, and then you forgot your blazer, and that's not a good look. So you're just saying this. And he goes, so then he goes, okay, all right. Yeah, I guess I forgot it. So he's telling me this. And then an hour later, we're all in an Airbnb, and I got my opener there. And he's explaining, I'm going out. And I got to buy a blazer. And I go, you forgot your blazer, Mike? And he goes, no. I didn't want to wake up the kids or the wife or wherever I'm sure there's carpeting in his house, and he's just got a slide. And by the way,
Socks.
what kind of wife, how big a shrew would you have to be? Let's just say you woke her up at 6 in the morning and you went...
I have to get my blazer now.
and she went, are you fucking nuts? Buy one in
I'm
Florida.
outta here.
Yeah, well, I'm out of here. I'm gonna be
That's it. The last time.
I'm moving back with my mother. Yeah. You need a blazer.
Right.
All right. So can we agree liar, or what are we calling it? Is what
I
I'm saying.
think that he forgot his blazer. Now,
Yeah.
I understand that I'm a bit of a neurotic packer because I travel frequently. So the night before I travel, I open my bag, I put it on the bag stand, and I pick out what I'm going to wear, what I need for the trip. I put that down there. I don't fold it up because I don't want it to wrinkle. I put plastic around it from the dry cleaner, and I let it sit there. So I know I've got shoes, workout shoes, and then I have that bag, the suit bag. Then I have my bag that goes on top. That's where all the underwear and other stuff goes. And so that's done before I go to bed because I don't sleep well knowing that I have to deal with this in the morning.
You are a winner because I always make the proclamation that I'm going to do it the night before, but at some point
I can't sleep well unless it's organized. And I know, and I pack the same stuff everywhere I go.
And you're a married man.
I'm a married man.
And let's just say you forgot your blazer as you're heading downstairs.
I don't think it
Would you
lead
buy a
to-
new blazer on the road, or would you
Well,
head back to the bedroom and get the
I
blazer?
like clothes, so I would, I'm not against buying a new blazer on the road, but I have a lot of blazers. So I don't need one. And when I travel, I come from that old school of traveling with my father as a child, and he traveled a lot. And you wore a sport coat when you traveled.
What did your dad do for
My dad was in the auto industry. So he traveled for Eaton and then later worked for an advertising company that had publications in the auto world. But when the first time I got on a flight...
Eaton Superchargers?
No, Eaton is in the big conglomerate that makes everything from car parts to all kinds of things.
Oh, I think Eaton makes a supercharger
They
from
might.
back in the day.
That could be.
So anyway,
The first time I flew was 1967 going from Chicago to Memphis. And there's a picture. And I've got my plaid sport coat,
Yeah.
my clip-on tie.
Yeah.
I'm missing my front tooth.
Wow.
And I have a crew cut. But we
and
got
your
on
dad,
that plane.
your
and
dad took you on these
he
trips.
sat next to me.
That's
And there would be
nice.
no monkey business.
Yeah.
Put your sport coat on, put your penny loafers on, and get on the plane. And
Simpler
to this
time.
day, I still, on virtually every trip I take, whether I'm wearing shorts or sweatpants, I wear a sport coat because I like the pockets. I like to know where my phone is, my earbuds, and my the pockets.
It's a good word for you, pockets.
Pockets.
Yeah, I
I got to
think
say it just right.
penis and pockets. Like, let's just say you put a sentence together
Don't
where you
put the
said
penis in your pocket, won't you, and get on the plane. You tuck that. I'll use that in the next predator investigation. Tuck that penis back in your pocket and come in here and have a seat.
Speaking of airplanes,
Yes, sir.
tell me if this is lying as well. And I don't know. We're at an all-time low in terms of service now. But this happened to me on the flight in to Florida, which was I'm endlessly fascinated with people who have a job to do and have no familiarity with the job they
Right.
do,
No
which is
training.
the new world order. No one's a professional anymore. It's like I said, you go to Home Depot, ask anyone who works there where the couplers are for the pipes that you sweating copper, and he's like, I'm on my break, or I don't know what that is. You got to talk to the plumbing guy. Like, that's not, when we were young, you'd go in, Pops Larson would be there, and he
Right.
knew everything. He's
Everything.
got a mustache with some salt and pepper
Right.
in it. He's wearing some kind of smock.
Yeah. With stuff in the smock.
Stuff. He's got one of those rulers that folds out, folds 5 different, the tape
String,
measure that's made
tape.
of 8 pieces, I'm on this flight, and the stewardess guy, flight attendant, comes by, and he goes, you want something to drink? And I go, how about a light beer? And he goes, oh, okay. But they have 3 beers altogether, and one of them's a Bud Light. But they're always a little confused. This happened to me a few times. I go, what do you got? Just whatever light beer you have. The good thing about light beers, they all basically taste the same. So he hands me a Stella. And then I say to him, well, is this your light beer? And he goes, I don't know. Is it light? I go, well, do you have a light beer?
As opposed to like a Guinness?
And he goes, we have a Bud Light. I go, so you have Stella, Bud Light, and an IPA. Yes. And those are the only 3 beers you have. Yeah. I just ordered a light beer. There's one that has the name Light. It's called Bud Light. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, and I know the thing where they go, he's young, or he's probably not a beer drinker. Like, that's all fine. There's just 3 beers. One of them's a light beer, the other's an amber, and the other one is an IPA. Like, you must do this all day. There's 220 people on this plane. This is all you do all day, every day. You don't know what he doesn't know what a Bud Light is.
Right. I was once on
What
a
is
flight.
that?
I was once on a flight, got upgraded, so I'm sitting up front. And there's still plenty of flying time left. And I, like you, had a thirst for a light beer. And so I said to the flight attendant, I said, I'll take a whatever light beer.
Yes.
And he said, well, I've already counted the beer. I said, well, subtract 1 and bring it to me, and I'll drink it, and I'll cause no problem.
Right.
I mean, and I say that only because it's not that hard,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
All
hard's
our
a good word
jobs,
for you, too.
if we
Hard and penis.
practice them, and we know,
Yes.
exactly. But and I need to preface this by saying, I'm treated very well generally in the aviation world.
I could see that.
I've got a lot of, miles. I've got status, and generally speaking, I do pretty well. I know how to, not create a hassle that doesn't need to be created. But once in a while, and I saw this coming back from, we have a house in Michigan and an apartment in New York City, so back and forth. I was coming back from Detroit, and I have the same 2 carry-on bags that I travel with every week on every plane,
Yes.
on every airline in America, and sometimes overseas. And I had the same 2 bags, same gate, and it's a 6 a.m. flight. It's the only flight I could get on like a Sunday. And here comes the gate agent. Now, all these gate agents in Detroit are usually very friendly.
No.
The guy who runs the gates in Detroit is a good friend of mine.
Really?
Right, because I'm there all the time. So here she comes, and she's like a shark in the waters looking, and she sees my bags.
Yeah.
And she sees the status I have on that airline. And she's going to make an example of me
She sees the blazer,
in front
too.
of the other guy, and the blazer. So I've got the blazer. I'm not making any trouble here.
Nope.
And she says, you're going to have to check that. I said, ma'am, with all due respect, I travel with these bags all the time. Well, they won't fit in here. I said, ma'am, I fly on this plane. It's
With
an
these
Embraer
bags.
175 with
That's
these bags
right.
every time. I'm sitting in this seat, and it goes, choot, choot, and if you need me to, one of them will go into the seat in front of me.
Right.
And I see where this is going.
It's always going.
Gate, check it, fine. So now I get to the end, and she's watching down the hallway to make sure that I don't.
I just had this happen to me.
Pull an okey doke, right? So I do as I'm supposed to. I get on the plane, and now the guys behind me are all going to fight it because they don't get that there's no good reason to just say, okay, fine, take the bag, and I'll get it on the other side. So I have a different ability here because I have the private email of the CEO of the airlines. So what do? I sit down immediately and I start, and I use a little bit of humor in this too. So I know at the worst case scenario, I'm getting 10,000 free miles out of my experience, which I get, and I lay the whole thing out. I said, 99% of the time I have a great experience on your airline. These people are my friends. I name the people I know who are my friends who work at the airline. And within 2 days, I get the nice email back from the chief assistant to the CEO of the airline and says, I'm sorry for your inconvenience. Here's 10,000 miles.
Damn, I should have done that. I had the exact same thing happen by some chick who sort of reminded me of like a young AOC, and she just goes, "That's not going to fit." And I go, "It'll fit.
Yeah.
This is the only bag I use, and I use it. How do you think I got here? You think I bought used luggage at the used luggage shop?
A little bit too big to go in the overhead."
And they're like, "Nah, it's not." And I go, "I know it fits because this is all I use." Now, at that point. And by the way, this is where the old school civility has to come in because it feels to them like you're disrespecting them.
Right. And I'm careful never to disrespect
Well, you're
anybody,
disrespecting
unless
them.
it's a criminal or a predator, and then all bets are off.
Well, the way they work is that you go, they'll say to you, the sky is green and the grass is blue. And you go, no, I think you got that wrong. And they go, now you're disrespecting me. So what you're doing is disrespecting them by explaining to them why this luggage will fit in the overhead. That is disrespect for them. And they're like young and they grew up in some bouillabaisse of disrespect. Right. You've got to respect me. You can't, don't you come at me that way. Like, are they all fucked up? They're all 24, and they've all somehow been slighted or disrespected, and now you, in your blazer, become this hood ornament for the man.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now you're going to but they have the ultimate say and the ultimate rule, and there's nothing you can do about it.
They have the power. And so, I've come
Power's
to the
a good word for you,
conclusion, power, that, you got to know when you can push yourself through, or whether it's I'll fix this later with the email.
Well, the problem is you start with logic.
Right.
They don't live in that world.
Exactly.
Your logic is disrespect to them. I was told, put the bag in the template. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I had to do that the same morning of the story I just told you. You put it in there. She goes, well, and I push it down a little bit. She goes, you can't push it down. Where in the FAA guidelines does it say you can't push it down? It says it's got to fit in the box. It fit in the box. Let's go. You know,
yeah, mine fit in the box, and it hung out an inch on each side because mine was like a bike rack style. You know, it just fit in. And then she goes, see? I go, what do you mean see? It just dropped right. So can you see how beat up this luggage is? This goes with me.
Every week, every airplane, every airline, this fits.
Yes, but not under their watch.
Right.
And I think it's an issue, and I complained about it in this book 12 years ago, and I'm telling you it's going to continue to be an issue because you give people absolute authority, and those people are angry, and you remind them of their stepdad, and now you're fucked. And this woman the guy on my flight, the guy just went, I want to stay on this flight, and I'm sorry. And she went, all right, and she just left. And then came back with the air marshal and went, in 5 minutes, I'm going to destroy the next 30 hours of your life. Yeah. I could just walk and hand out some popcorn or something, but nope, I'm going to walk out. I'm going to go get a guy. Yeah. I'm going to bring him back, and he's going to ruin you.
I remember coming through Heathrow with my wife, and they took everything apart. I've got every badge, every status, every security thing you can get, right? But, whatever. I understand heightened threat alerts and everything. And all our liquid toiletries were within the prescribed amounts. Weights,
yes.
volume, everything. But they were too concentrated in one bag. And so I don't know whether it was, I'm assuming it was Gabrielle's who had too much in it, and she said, and the guy says, okay, we can do this. We just need to redistribute however many are in each bag. And he gave us 2 extra plastic bags. So now we have 4 plastic bags of the same stuff in the same 2 bags.
Yes.
And in my mind, I'm saying, well, if we were co-conspirators and we had a diabolical plot, we could reconfigure the raw materials to do whatever diabolical we wanted to do once we get on the plane. And I thought, I could say that, but it's probably only going to make this more difficult, and so I'll just shut up and put everything in the same bags. The same stuff went on the same plane in the same bags.
My theory is that if these people tried to do this to Frank Sinatra in the 60s, he would have them killed. He would literally just say, I want that young girl killed when he's leaving. So end up in Florida. Here's a question for you.
Sure.
Went to Mar-a-Lago, right? Yeah. Very limited security over there. I don't know if you've been.
Long time ago, I saw Ray Charles perform at Mar-a-Lago at a fundraiser once. Probably 16, 17 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was great. God. He's such a great performer.
Wow.
Loved every second of it.
Right, and there is a big, beautiful Steinway piano, like right in the middle of the
So it was
thing.
It was an event, and some friends were involved in the industry event that we attended, and we were invited down there, and we went, and it was Harry Connick Jr. one night at one venue, and then it was Ray Charles at Mar-a-Lago, and it was, to see Ray Charles live in that venue with only, I don't know, a couple hundred people, it was just
amazing.
Fantastic. But that's the only time I've been there.
I wonder if he thought Harry Connick Jr. was black. Anyway, we can look into that. His birthday's 9/11, by the way. That's all I know about.
Yes, I know him.
That's all I know about Harry Connick Jr.
He's a good guy. I know him pretty well.
So, but here's the question. So we go in there, and there's just a woman sitting at the front desk, and you just walk right past her. There is no X-ray machine or bags going through anything. Not that we had bags, but I mean, no one got patted down. In terms of a metal detector, Mike was like, "Oh, they have to be built into the walls or something." I was like, "I don't really think that's the way mahogany works." I think you got to walk through a metal detector. No, just walk in, stroll about. Sit outside. Was happy to see a couple of guys pulling in golf shirts that I had to point out to Mike. Mike,
they're not wearing blazers, by the way.
They're just wearing golf shirts. And then at some point, I heard someone go, "Oh, he's here," or something like. There he is, and here comes Trump down. I don't even know. I was sort of facing the other way, but I was told Trump was there, so I was like, all right, I'm going to go say hi to Trump. The thing that was comical is it was moments after the guy who hosted us paid what would have to be a pretty big bill.
Sure.
Because there's 5 of us and everyone ate and drank and everything else. And the moments after that, I sent you a picture, I think, of that somewhere. Moments after that, he announced, it's on the house. It's on the house. And I was like, what's etiquette now? I mean, let's just say you picked up a pretty hefty bill.
Right.
Pretty hefty. And then moments later, Donald Trump, I mean, you literally just signed it. And then moments later, Trump comes by and goes, hey, it's all in the house.
Do you get some stuff
Do you
to go,
run your
or-
guy down and like what? Now, everyone there is a heavy hitter, so you don't want to look like amateur hours or pull out coupons and shit. But what do you do? Well, I would have done it. Like, I would have, I don't know. What do you do? Now, our guy didn't say anything. But what would you do?
I would say thanks. I just paid the bill, but I really appreciate the gesture. Just
No flagging down the waiter.
No, you got to let that fly.
You got to let it fly.
happened.
All right.
Let it fly.
it would bother me though, like the way it's bothering you right now.
You think about it.
I didn't pay it. I was still.
That's a nice sport coat, by the
Still,
way.
thank you.
And
I packed it
goes
myself.
Well with it goes well with the
I packed it
shirt
myself.
and the jeans and the whole
Why
thing.
would Mike August not lie about buying a new blazer? That's the part of the story I don't understand. He could say, I got to get some sunglasses. I got to get something else.
Okay. Oh, you mean
Like, why would he tell the truth about going out to buy a blazer?
it was on his mind that he needed to find a blazer. And if it's on his mind, then he will speak it. You know what I mean? And I think he thought that I wouldn't see through his little ruse about not wanting to wake up. It's like, first off, Mike, you're not nearly that thoughtful a husband.
Yeah.
Not nearly.
Number one.
That you wouldn't wake up your wife doesn't have to wake up. You could slide into the bedroom,
Sneak in there, get the
slide the
blazer,
thing, and just
put
very
it on.
quietly,
Yeah.
very quietly slip it off that hanger. You don't have to go in there with pots and pans, banging shit together. There's no blazer party, just slide. So he said it to me because I think he thought I would go along with his elaborate ruse, but I saw right through it, just like you do, Chris.
So what do you talk to Trump about? What?
Trump's gift is saying everything to everyone, like, "Hey, appreciate what you're doing, man. Keep up the good work. I've been listening," or something. Like, what he does is I've explained it many times. He makes everyone feel good about themselves. He kind of did that. Make America great again. That's all he's saying. He's like, we're great. This greatest country. We need to go back. We're going to build the best I've told you many times. He's done it. He's done it to me.
Yeah.
He just.
who else was good at that? Mike Wallace
Mike Wallace
of 60 Minutes. I ran into him in Florida, and he was working. He was doing a story, and I was actually not working that particular day. And I went to Chris Hansen, and at the time I was at Dateline. He goes, "Chris, what was it that I just saw you do?" "Oh, it was our investigation into, Stinger missiles being smuggled by terrorists." He goes, "Yes, that's it. It was so good." Thank you. I'm like,
Right.
I said, he probably didn't see that, but I tell you what, I feel awfully good about myself that Mike Wallace just paid me a compliment.
And then you go, I like that guy.
I always liked him, but now I really liked him because he was nice to me.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel would always say to me, You only like that guy because he compliments you all the time. I go, that's right. That's exactly what I do. That's how I roll.
And I'm fine with that.
And I'm fine with it, yes. Yeah. And so what he does, now I don't know if there's a little briefing. I mean, it was funny. Then some old guy with his wife walked past us, and Trump yells his name out and goes, "That's the richest guy in New York City." He goes, then I start thinking, well, maybe he could buy us something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we got screwed on the Trump
Or he could buy a blazer. One of the
That's
two,
the richest guy in New York City. So he does what Spicoli does when he enters the classroom. Like, I know that guy. Like, he just, maybe there's a brief. Like if you're Trump, on any given day you come down on a Saturday, there's got to be 3 or 4 people who you're supposed to know.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I would imagine they give him a sheet, or at least say, hey, by the way, this guy, and this woman are going to be there, and you should
you go.
pay homage.
Carolla did Celebrity Apprentice 6th season or something, so he's going to say, he'll probably recognize it. So, and then, so what he does is he does what Wallace did, which he just goes, oh, yeah, hey, great, man, love what you're doing, man, keep it up, which you can say to anybody about anything at any time, and they just nod their head, So I don't know. I mean, I'm, friendly with him, interviewed his son a time or two. Like, we've probably got some idea what I'm doing, but that's how he rolls. And then you feel a little better about yourself. And then he does weird little stuff, like goes, here, take the picture. And then Mike's got a picture of Trump's hand, because after Mike took the picture, Trump wanted to take the phone and look at it. Look, I want to make sure picture? It's a good. Yeah, it's like there's stupid little stuff, like I take pictures with everyone after every show I do. And there'll be some woman, she'll go, oh, I'm a big fan. And I'll take a picture. And at some point, I'll put my arm around her and I'll squeeze her just a little, like, get in here. And she goes, oh, but it's a little memory.
It's a nice picture, yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's fun. So, end of the meal, there was Trump and came down. Everyone says he's down 30, 40 pounds.
He looks
down a lot of weight,
significantly skinnier than the pictures I usually see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? Do we know? Stress?
Well, he looks thinner in the face.
Yeah, definitely the face.
And you can hide a lot with a proper fitting suit, obviously, but he does definitely look thinner in that picture.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, so it was nice. I have no idea what they do for security over there. It seems insane that people are just sort of walking
Well, if
in.
they have a list, I mean, they know Adam Carolla is not going to bring in an AR-15, and if you did, they'd see it.
I told this to Mike August. I said they vet everyone as a list, and he goes, I go, they know there's no, characters or terrorists or whatever, and I goes, those people come in, he knows who they are. I go, the richest guy in New York is coming in. Right. He knows that guy, and he goes, that's exactly who gets you. Oh, so your buddy from high school's the guy who actually assassinates you? That's how they get you.
It's already on the inside.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Real easy. Yeah, Sirhan's on the list. Well, we're not letting him in. But you, Carolla, from season 5 of Celebrity Apprentice, that's the one who gets you.
This is the guy. He's got the knife in his sock. This is the guy who gets you.
Yes,
sock.
I did a long speech about there's a list, and they want to know everybody's name who's on that. And
you're going to be on the other list the next time you go there after saying this.
That's right. I'll make the alternative list. But if Chris Hansen is on the thing, then no, they don't have to pat you down. I said they do what the Israelis do, which is at the airport.
And
here,
right.
Our plan is to pat down every elderly amputee who gets pushed through an airport. Every 9-year-old, every kid in a wheelchair, every elderly. The Hansen, we got to separate the conditioner from the shampoo and put it in different Ziplocs. We just take everybody and treat them like a terrorist. Israel is smarter and goes, we don't need to pat down Pippi Longstocking over here, but the swarthy guy with the beard, maybe.
But they watch behavior. The best Mossad El Al story I've ever heard was there was a redheaded Irish woman traveling, and they picked up on something, and she was going on a route you wouldn't expect her to go. I don't know whether it was Beirut to Tel Aviv or whatever it was. So they get her suitcase, and she's pregnant on top of it. So you have a pregnant Irish woman with red hair, and she's on this weird route. Doesn't act upset or nervous or anything else, but just one of these things is not like the other. And they pull her aside. They go through the bag. Nothing on the surface. They go through the bag again. They're convinced, based upon this profile, that something's not right here. They cut into the liner of the bag, and it's plastic explosive.
Wow.
And it turns out that a terrorist known to Mossad had befriended this young woman, created a relationship, impregnated her, all to set up a bomb on an airline.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's Mossad.
Right.
That's El Al security.
Yeah, here we go. You can't profile people. It's like, well, then everybody's got to go take their shoes off and they pat it down.
And now
everybody.
they've got these new machines. Have you seen those? The big long tube machines that take forever.
Yes.
And there's been a lack of training for some of the operators. And just now, after 6 months or so of these machines being up, are the people starting to get the hang of it. Not their fault.
Right.
Just not enough of them, and it slows down the entire process. But it's if you're going to do something new, train the people. Make sure there are enough of them to do the job. That's all I ask. Yeah.
The airport security feels like we take the dumbest, least employable people from whatever city this airport is in and welcome them to come on down.
There's
and work at
there
the
are also some
airport.
very sharp people committed people who work there, and I've run
Never
into
see
these
them.
people. Well, I
They're
see a
behind
lot
the
of them.
scenes.
Maybe.
All right, let me give you another frustrating beer-related story from JetBlue. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Tell me what this even means. I'm now at the point where I'm now so confused that I don't know
thirsty.
what the person's doing. Yeah, I go, this is years ago. They go, you want something to drink? I go, yeah, give me a light beer. She goes, which light beer? I go, whatever you have. Bud Light, Miller Lite. They're not going to have them both. They just have one. I go, so just the one. She goes, well, which one? I go, just whatever light beer you have. She goes, well, if you check the menu on the seat back pocket. I said, yeah, well, just bring whatever you got. She goes, sure, the menu, it lists the drinks right on the back side. I said, so I have to, check the menu. I go, or you just bring whatever light beer you have. No, check it.
First in the,
so I checked it, and I was like, all right, yes, Miller Lite. Thank you.
Yeah.
She
Tastes
came back
great,
a half
filling.
hour later with a snack basket. A snack basket. She's holding it up high, playing it close to the vest. I'm sitting there. So I go, she goes, would you like a snack? I go, yeah. What would you like? I go, well, let me just tilt it down here. Let me see if I can grab some Triscuits or something. She goes, it's all in the menu. I go, just tilt it so I can see it. She goes, it's in the menu.
Guy.
So it's on the laminated menu. I'm like, okay, just slide it. Roll your hands down a little, and then I'll grab some Pop-tastic popcorn or something. Like, sir, it's on. And I'm thinking, what? She's just fucking with me? Like, what?
That's weird.
Is there
what
a hidden
going,
camera?
What is going on? Yeah, is your
show?
crew?
Yeah.
Is your crew there? God damn. I got to tell you. That was, you walking out of the pantry and into their life. Oh, God.
Well, we just shot one.
You just shot one.
Again in Florida, another investigation. And we actually had a guy, this is ironic, and this episode comes out next on Takedown with Chris Hansen, which is the new Predator series. This guy actually worked for TSA in North Carolina.
I knew it.
And so when he shows up for the teenage girl after the whole back and forth communications, we take a look in his car, and there's his TSA identity right there. But here's a guy who is, working that job in North Carolina, married guy. You look at his Facebook page, cute wife, the whole thing. And he's down on a family trip for a kid's birthday party, and he's online trying to set up a meeting with a child for sex.
And what became of him, do you know?
He was arrested, and I don't know if he's bonded out or not, but, in Florida, they face some pretty serious charges. And they face serious charges everywhere, but depending on where we're working, there's a greater propensity for these guys to get bail and get out. But I don't think this guy made bail.
We need to take a quick break. We got the news. We got more Chris. We got more stories of the trials and the tribulations. And this guy may have been a bad hombre, but still not as bad as that chick that made me gate check my bag. In my world, not as bad. All right, we'll be back with the great Chris Hansen and some news right after this. Stamps.com. Well, after the hype of the new year, it's time to settle into some routines. Stamps.com streamlines all your mailing and shipping like a post office in your pocket. Postage rates just increased again. Stamps.com has the best discounts, like 89% off a U.S. Postal Service and UPS. We've always used it here to send out books and merch, shirts, swag, everything. Comes with a scale. You use a scale all the time, too. You get the exact amount of postage you need when you use a scale. Keep mailing and shipping at the speed of your business with Stamps.com. Use the promo code Adam for a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No commitments, no contracts. You will use this and never stand in line at the post office again. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone, top of the home page, and enter the code Adam at Stamps.com.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Ace Man, here's something you definitely need to do before you die. Wake up next to a dead prostitute. Get it on?
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Chris Hansen in the studio. He's got a whole bunch of projects coming up. I just got to find my beat sheet here, and I'll tell you all about what he's got cooking. He's got True Crime Nation with Chris Hansen, and that streams on TruBlu streaming network. Nice that there's a appetite for this stuff.
We've been up on TruBlu for, it was a year at Thanksgiving, and it has really taken off. And for a guy, who's been doing this a long time, 40-some years, to have control and ownership of your content and the distribution of the content for not only the Predator Investigations takedown, but the other things, and the documentaries we're working on, it's liberating. Because some of these, the sextortion documentary, some of the other things we're working on, these things will air as series on TruBlu, but also air as a documentary on, another network. So you get a couple lives out of them. And it's good work. It's important, and it's very compelling to watch in the crime space. And that, as you know, is popular.
I'm starting to wonder if everybody is doing it for themselves and how, I feel like almost every one of these cold case serial killers is busted by a housewife who just can't get off the computer, Right. And just in general, just a lot of privateers, not government agencies.
I think there are citizen journalists who have crowdsourced, essentially, solutions to crimes because of the proliferation of crime podcasts and people who follow this.
Right.
I also think that some of the people involved in the DNA, lineage projects have been able to come across some things that were important to linking family members to certain crimes, and then they can get to the actual criminal themselves.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how much crime continues, considering
there are video cameras everywhere.
Right. So I've often said the first time they put up video cameras at a 7-Eleven, I would have said, well, there'll be no more robbing of this 7-Eleven.
And you see it in New York, and I'm sure it's the same here in L.A. I mean, you've got choppers everywhere with video. Everybody's picked up, they say the average person's picked up 12 times a day, at least, just going about their business with surveillance cameras. But you can see when somebody does something on the subway or at a public place in New York, it's on the news that night, and I can look at my watch and say, okay, somebody's dropping a dime, and he'll be in custody in 24 hours. Yeah, people respond to it. At least in New York, they do. They're very vigilant, and New Yorkers don't want all the crime. And statistically, some could argue that it's actually not as bad as it was last year or the year before. But one crime, if you're the victim on the subway and the guy's got a gun or a knife, it's one too many. There's
they just had the guy who pulled a gun and his girlfriend stabbed him, and then the guy got shot with his own gun.
Right.
And
how would you like to be in that subway? And it turns out that a producer of ABC was there and got the vast majority of it on video with her phone.
That's who was filming that whole thing? Well, not to mention, there's surveillance cameras everywhere, and then there's mobile surveillance cameras, which is everybody in their phone.
Right.
So they just film everything.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It didn't have the effect I thought it would, which is having everyone stop. So that's not really the effect. And I don't know if it's that. It's like saying, well, if you film the dog taking a shit on your neighbor's lawn, then that would deter the dog from taking the shit on the neighbor's lawn. And then you go, the dog doesn't care.
Right.
And I think we're kind of there. We're there with humanity now. I don't think these people care. The cops show up. I mean, the reaction that I had when I was in my youth to cops showing up meant scatter.
Right.
Everybody
until you
scatter.
heard the click of a hammer on a revolver, and then the word stop, and you stopped.
The craziest. Remember, there was that crazy story about 4 years ago where the two women were fighting, and the cop rolled up in the driveway, and he jumped out of his car, and as the woman was about to plunge a steak knife into the other woman, the cop shot that woman and killed her. Right?
I remember. Yeah.
Right. So there's a couple crazy things about that story. First off, all the idiots like LeBron James and stuff have to get into some sort of racial cop thing. It's like there was a black chick who was about to be stabbed with a steak knife, and she could have stopped, by the way, when the cop car rolled up. But the craziest thing about that footage is there's another guy fighting with somebody else, and the cop comes running up on the scene, and this guy goes in to get another drop kick on the guy who's laying on the ground while the cop is heading toward him with his gun. That would formerly
and by
didn't
the way,
exist. When cops showed up, you scattered.
The most dangerous call that a police officer can get is often a domestic violence.
Yes.
Out of the last handful of NYPD officers sadly killed on the job, they were domestics.
Right.
And they got jammed into a bad situation. It becomes volatile, and they try to de-escalate with words and non-lethal force. And that's when sometimes these things happen. So they're on the edge immediately going into these situations because they know how volatile they can be.
Yeah. Find that footage. It's a funny, weird thing. Again, everyone's fixated on the chick who was shot by the cop, but I was more fixated on the dude who wanted to get one more kick in to a guy. I've seen tons of footage where the cops are there, they're holding the person, and the person breaks away and kicks the person one more time on the ground.
Well, you saw recently in New York City in Times Square where, they were questioning somebody and his buddies came up and started whooping on the cops.
Right.
And they arrest the guys, and then they get out, because there's no bail, and they're on the lam, and they finally rounded them back up after all the outrage.
Right.
I mean, if I saw that, and I'm not trying to be a tough guy here, but if I saw somebody take a swing at a cop in New York in front of our apartment, and I had the opportunity to get a lick in, I'd take it.
Yeah.
I just would.
Good. You're a hero.
I don't think I'm a hero.
I do.
I think I'm irritated at seeing somebody. It would be irritated seeing somebody hit a cop from behind.
What about this sort of, no bail or cashless bail, sort of revolving door? The guy's been arrested 26 times. He's out that
Back
afternoon.
to General Pop you go.
I think
that?
They have to. There are certain cases where you need to be held pending, your hearing or whatever court action you're facing. I mean, look at these guys are on a bus to wherever they were sent, the West Coast or wherever from, or they got on a bus, they weren't sent there, and they were able to leave. And it wasn't until there was such outrage over these guys beating up two police officers in Times Square,
right,
that they, rounded them up and found them and arrested most of them, and they're now facing justice. But yeah, the no bail thing, I mean, obviously, if it's a property crime, we can't lock everybody up. I get that. Mm-hmm. And the penalty needs to fit the crime. But if it's a violent crime, one of the things that worked in New York was they found out in the late 90s that the guy who was aggressively panhandling in front of an ATM, or the guy who was urinating in public, half out of his wits, at 6 p.m., if they took him off the street at 6 p.m., they would prevent a felony at 10, 11, 12 p.m. It's called CompStat.
Right.
And it was a Bratton and Jack Maple put together for NYPD. And they got away from it during the de Blasio years. Mm-hmm. And now everybody's trying to get the cat back in the bag, and it's proving to be more difficult, especially if these people aren't being held.
Yeah.
You know?
It's especially frustrating when you figured out something that worked and was effective,
Exactly.
and then you get rid of it. It's basically like saying, "Oh, your son was pretty heavy, but then he started eating right and exercising, and now he's really
Yeah, he's
trimmed
a
down.
healthy
He looks
athlete.
really healthy."
Yeah.
And then everyone goes, "Good." And then at some point they go, "Okay, we're going back to the fudge
Right.
now." And you go, "What? Well, wait a minute. You know what works?" And
Here's
they go,
some
"Yeah,
Pop-Tarts."
but he wants some fudge." And then at some point he's gone back to sloppy and obese. And then you got to go, "Okay, we need to go back." And they go, "Whoa!" And then we're going to argue about it.
We have to quit doing extremes, right? Okay,
Sure.
I understand that there are issues with stop and frisk. I understand that there were issues in certain parts of New York where people of color were getting stopped and frisked more than people who weren't of color. And there needs to be oversight of all that. But we can't just shift one way to the other. Let's do what works with oversight to protect people's civil rights. I don't think it's that complicated.
No.
Right? If there's a bad cop, he's not going to be my friend. He's a bad cop. He should deal with the consequences. But more often than not, the cops are good people who try to do a very difficult job. We know that. Black cops, white cops, Asian cops, Hispanic cops, they're all trying to get the job done. But there has to be monitoring. Because if there's no monitoring, then, there's no accountability. It's not that hard.
It's not that hard. And in this day and age, I mean, I don't know, 30% of them are women. Many are ethnics.
Also
different-
good cops? All good cops? The vast majority?
No. I'm saying is the narrative of the Irish
I get
guy
what you're
who's
saying,
taking it out on the black or Hispanic. That's gone. When you go to major cities like New York
I
and you
understand.
look at the cops, they're all different. Same with LA.
It reflects the makeup of the citizens of the city, which is
Right.
as it should
Right.
be.
Right.
It should
So
be
what-
that way in LA. It should be in New York. It
But
should be in Chicago.
what I'm saying is it's not all racial profiling with everything. And there are plenty. By the way, could you be a bad cop? How could you get away these days with being
It's harder than
a
it was
bad
30
cop?
years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Harvey Keitel and the Bad Lieutenant. those are days of yore.
Right.
You probably have a female supervisor of color who the third time somebody dropped a dime on you, you'd be behind a desk. You wouldn't be out on the street anymore. It'd just be really difficult to be a bad New York cop. And there'd be lots of complaints, if you were racially profiling or
Right,
doing
the system
whatever.
of checks and balances
Right.
would ultimately catch up with a bad cop.
We know
in
what
New
it
York,
takes.
I believe it would. Yeah.
Let them just do it. And
Right.
we understand broken windows or the turnstile hoppers or whatever. The guy who got shot with his own gun on the subway the other day was a turnstile hopper.
And did you know that nearly 50% of turnstile hoppers have some sort of a warrant? Like 47%.
Oh, it makes perfect sense because people don't really dabble in crime. I don't know anyone who does a little bit of shoplifting as an adult. You know what I mean? I'll pay for that picture frame, but I'm going to steal that one over there. You're either in or you're out. If
The
it's
retail
the same
theft,
group of
the
people.
retail theft. We're working on a story on that now. As a
Oh,
matter of
yeah?
fact. And it's, if you take a look at, illicit drug use, fentanyl, who's bringing that in? Gangs. And how do you buy it? Stolen stuff. What do you do with the stolen stuff? You ship it overseas and sell it. Now, this is all linked together in New York.
Is this
in LA.
cars as well? Because there's a lot of cars being shipped out of here.
I'm sure that has something to do with it. But what we're looking at right now is the retail theft. So you've got people who want to buy their fentanyl, and in the city of San Francisco, and in order to get that money, they're taking public transportation to the suburbs, where it's easier to steal stuff from Target and whatever, and that's being fenced or somehow sold on the streets to get the money to buy. It's one.
And they have a
linked up
shopping
situation.
list.
They do.
Well,
I'm doing interviews later this week on that very topic.
You think they could get Mike a blazer next time?
You wear it once and ship it overseas to sell it. Yeah.
Dawson, you find that footage of that thing, or do you have it?
We're closer.
Oh, okay. That was a big story. It's about 4 years ago, 4.5. Yeah, shouldn't be anything else
It was
like it
it
out
was
there.
during when the heightened BLM. LeBron
Was it
stuff,
right in that time?
Wasn't it?
I guess I I guess.
We got it with no sound because
That's
we found
fine.
it from a German report.
I just like the idea that the guy kicked the guy on the ground one more time. I guess it's the body cam of the guy pulling up.
Yeah, it looks like it.
He jumps out of his car. There's a dispute.
Yeah.
The guy. Oh yeah. Right. So the guy's got his gun out, and the guy still. There's a cop with his gun out. A woman gets thrown to the ground, and the guy still gives her a head kick. While the cop car and the cop are.
Guns drawn.
But gun is drawn. He's 8 feet away from the guy with the gun toward the guy who decides to take a kick at the person's head. That's New World Order shit. That shit did not exist in the past. Crazy, right? I mean, you saw the cop car pull up. You saw the guy get out of the car with the gun drawn toward you.
Right.
The woman is laying on the sidewalk, and you still give her one more shot to the head while the cop has his gun drawn.
Right. Well, as Chris said, it's like for a lot of these domestic violence cases, I mean, they just don't, authority doesn't even matter.
Well, that's
at
why
that
they're
point.
so dangerous for law enforcement. The domestic violence cases, they just
At
The emotions
at
are-
the point where there's a pistol drawn. You know what I always
You
say
would
to
think-
everyone? I say everyone all the time. Don't look at cops as cops. Look at them as people with a gun. Right. And then if a guy ran up to me
Work
with a
backwards from
gun,
there.
I would not kick the person in the head. I would cease.
You can restrain yourself.
Yeah, I had a cop run at me jump out of his cruiser once with a shotgun, pumping it and running at me in the middle of just a night walk and nobody around, just me and my dog. And all I didn't want to put my hands up. I felt that was too much movement. I put them as wide as I could just put them. I just went full flying none. I just put my hands as wide as I could put my hands. He ran right past me with his shotgun.
Right. He was going after somebody else.
He needed some etiquette. Like, hey, man, I got no context. All I
Get
know
down.
is you pulled up going the wrong direction, jumped out of the car, pumped the shotgun when you jumped out, held it down toward me, and started running at me. That's enough to
That'll
scare
get
me.
your attention, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And he just yelled, get out of here.
I remember when I was going
seen the team
into
with
New Orleans
Mm-hmm.
after Katrina. It was about a week after the main event, and I had gone down there for NBC. And, by that point, a lot of it had played out, but it was still, a big story. And it was a lawless land. The mayor had left for Dallas, and, there were dead bodies on the bridges. And so I couldn't even fly into New Orleans. So I fly into Houston. I get this big SUV, and I call the producers who are on site. They're living in mobile homes on the property of the NBC affiliate at the time. I said, what do you need? We need all this stuff. I go to Walmart, get 4 coffin-sized coolers of stuff, from beer to burger patties, and I go into New Orleans. Now, I don't know New Orleans that well in terms of driving around it. So I get to the first police checkpoint, huge SUV. It's like a Navigator. And nobody really wants to come out and talk to me, so I keep driving. Well, now they want to talk to me. Now I'm out of the vehicle, and I'm dressed, with my blue jean shirt and my
blazer.
khakis.
Blazer.
Yeah, no blazer, but I got all my tags on, right? And I'm up against the thing, and I got a 9mm in my ear.
Wow.
And I'm trying to explain. Now, I can smell the pheromones of cops who've been up and are very stressed out. And it finally all worked out and everything, but that gets your attention. Oh, my God. When it's screwed into your ear. And then we all became buddies, and they gave me an escort, and it was all fine. But, it was tense for a minute.
Yeah, respect the badge and the gun. All right, quick break. We'll come back and do the news with Chris Hansen right after this. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Well, they're in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly offers friendly, helpful service and parts and knowledge you need to do all your own maintenance and repairs. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry. If you're in a jam, they'll help you out. When you're a do-it-yourselfer and need a specialty tool to finish the job, well, stop by O'Reilly and ask for one of their loaner tool programs, because there's a lot of real special tools when it comes to doing certain jobs on cars. Simply pay a refundable deposit and borrow the right tool, then get the deposit back when it's returned, so it's free. They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. Plus, they can test your battery for free, in or out of the car, so you don't have to pop it out. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto, and you can find what you need in the store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam.
Celebrating 15 years of podcasting, here's a memorable moment from the Adam Carolla Show's Ace Awards archives.
Well, Andy Dick pleaded not guilty to sexual battery on last Wednesday, according to The Blast. The comedian who was not present in court has been accused of groping a stranger's buttocks.
Just came up with a special type of batteries made for vibrators.
Sexual battery?
Sexual battery. Somewhere between a AA and a C is Ace's sexual battery.
Sexual battery.
Specifically made for sexual devices.
You got to put Duracells in your flashlight, sexual batteries in your flashlight.
Right.
Now, for some new memorable moments, let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Well, Chris Hansen in breaking Predator news.
Yeah.
You just showed me his phone.
Well,
Diddy.
Yeah, as we talk about, as I recorded this, so Diddy's homes in L.A. and Miami have been raided by federal agents, and reports are saying it's being linked to a sex trafficking allegations.
Wow.
Like Diddy's kind of, I would say in the last, 2 months, he's been getting a lot of bad press.
I would say, yeah. Now, this could be explained if there's a photograph of him in a MAGA hat, but if there isn't, he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Well, what
I mean,
what
the
are
fact
they
that
going
they raided
for?
the house. So if it's a human trafficking investigation, and I'm just getting up to speed on this now, I've just gotten some stuff here on the phone. But if they've actually raided his home, right, they have to get evidence that they have to present in front of a federal magistrate to show that there's probable cause that a crime has been committed, to get a warrant to go do what they're doing
To raid his house.
apparently as we speak.
Right.
And that's no easy feat.
It's not easy to get a judge to issue you a warrant. You have to present them with something.
Right.
So ostensibly, if they got a warrant to raid his house, it's based on something, and it's not easy to get.
Right. And it's not one report necessarily, unless, of course, there's some sort of impending danger for a human being. So the question is, does it have anything to do with his wife? Does it have anything to do with other people who he's alleged to have been trafficking? It's all playing out as we speak right now.
There was all the scuttlebutt a few months ago about his girlfriend, back in the day.
He's had a
blah,
lot
blah,
of
blah.
accusers. He's settled with his ex-girl, one of the girls. I mean, there's been just
But
a
what
lot
are they
of
when they're
reports.
showing up doing a raid? They're looking for his computer, or what are they?
Laptop.
Well, they're looking for
flash
evidence
drives.
that they believe is in his home that, they're afraid of disappearing.
Right.
And so they need to prove that there's evidence there that they need to get to show commission of a crime, to prove it in a court of law, and that they can't just go contact his lawyer and say, hey, we have some questions about this issue. There's
Right.
got to be the fear that this evidence could somehow disappear or be destroyed if they didn't move right away to go with a warrant in hand and physically search this property.
But then what do they do? So what I don't get is, I get it, but then there's Lori Loughlin. They went and raided her, and they got her too. Now you could just say to her attorney, bring
It's a
her
different
downtown
sort of
and have her
crime. Right.
meet us at noon. I guess that's more theatrics, probably.
Well, I suppose, but there shouldn't be theatrics in these things. I mean,
I
I
agree.
know the reality is that there can be, but typically when you're talking about the feds, I mean, you don't see the perp walk you see in Chicago or New York or maybe, Miami, you see it happens. And we want it to happen as, reporters and with our camera crews. We want to see this human being.
Right.
But typically it's a little more controlled when it comes to federal investigations.
So I think we have some footage of the.
Yeah, let's take a look.
It's a minute long. They're all heading in.
Got a
through
lot
the
of
gates.
Wow.
Arrested somebody who's walking backwards. Does not look like him. I mean, this is full paramilitary stuff. This is flak jackets and helmets and ARs and pistols, and this is the full brigade has showed up. Now, it's being filmed from a drone or a helicopter.
That's aerial footage.
Somebody had an inkling of it. I don't know if that's them filming themselves. I don't know if that's a news outlet who heard about it and launched a drone,
Well, it's either chopper or drone.
Sounds like a chopper.
It sounds like chopper. I mean, you know what it's like here in Los Angeles. I mean, the local news is hip to just about everything. There's people sitting on the lawn.
So is P. Diddy there?
That I don't know.
Yeah, it's just remember in the last few months, there's all these sexual assault accusations. A producer said that he was forced to engage in sex acts and solicit sex workers for P. Diddy. It's weird how it's all coming out in the last 5-6 months, and now it's come to this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. Chris can speak to this, but he's texting his producers now. But is this you're either in or you're out, on this? I mean, it's like you don't hear anything about Tom Hanks, right? Like it's just you do it or you don't do it. And if there's a bunch of stuff floating around where the producer had to go get you the sex, there's usually some fire where there's some smoke.
They don't want it to be embarrassed. Federal investigators, and they don't open a case if there's not evidence typically that something really bad has happened. I mean, there's a couple different levels here, and I'm assuming just getting involved in it that the local authorities and the federal authorities were both in on it. But human trafficking can be both, and so if the feds are in on it, you would think that by the very definition, there's probably more than one victim survivor involved here.
I bet you Garagos is going to get a phone call pretty soon. I wouldn't be
Diddy
surprised.
has denied all allegations, obviously, since the very beginning. He even put out posts like, all this slander to my name, this will all be fixed soon. Like he knew, kind of, almost as if he knew things were looming as well. But very weird.
And what happened? Like, remember Russell Brand had all this stuff happen 10 minutes ago, and now you don't hear anything about it.
But I think Russell Brand was a pattern of behavior that was allegedly abusive towards women. It wasn't necessarily, and there was some allegation within that maybe somebody was not of age at some point. And that maybe there was some grooming, but to my recollection, there was no allegation of human trafficking. No,
I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying it always seems sometimes suspicious to me when it's like, oh, there's this thing going on, and then all of a sudden, like, nah, it's not.
I know, but I don't think you saw federal agents raiding properties of Russell Brand. I think you saw a series of articles calling him out for alleged bad behavior. So that's two different things.
And then there was, oh God. What is the congressman with the slick hair who actually reached out to me the other day? Gates.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Gates. Tons of stories about him underage, Matt Gates, underage. And then nothing? And Jim Jordan gets that with something when he was a wrestling coach or something. It's like something, but nothing ever happens? Are they just putting that out there?
Well, I don't think necessarily it's federal investigators.
No, it isn't.
I think they're sniffing around based upon that former associate of his who pleaded guilty and apparently was cooperating at some level in the Matt Gates case. Now, is there any there? I don't know, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
There
I'm
was a
just
guy who
telling-
got into trouble who apparently claimed to have had some information and was sharing that with federal authorities. To my knowledge, I don't think there's anything pending there, but I think they were looking at it.
Chris, who has more range than me? I got a text from Matt Gaetz and Jimmy Kimmel in the same evening.
That's pretty good.
That's a lot of range. Is that range?
You're
That's
the only
big,
human on
right.
Earth.
That's a big wingspan.
That's a lot of range.
And this is where we all come together because Kimmel made a joke one night about suspecting that as Gates was talking at a public event, I was going to come and take him into custody. It's a true story in his monologue one night.
Right.
Yeah. So
That
now
makes sense.
we're all in the
now
same
we're all
group.
together. Yeah.
Well, didn't you just do a report on a human trafficking operation in Polk County?
Well, we did. So in Polk County, when we do these stings, we embed with the law enforcement down there, Grady Judd, the sheriff in Polk County. And so on one side of the investigation, it's adults trying to meet children. On the other side, it's human trafficking. And what we found in that particular investigation was 10% of those arrested in the human trafficking side were citizens of other countries here illegally. And so we saw one case where 3 people were arrested, 2 women who were being exploited sexually because they had to pay their smuggler
Right.
the fees for getting them into this country, that they were being, sold for sex. And they showed up in this sting operation. And so what the Polk County Sheriff's Office does in those cases is provides them an out, from a NGO who counsels women how to get out of this business, and then they try to create some safe environment to get them help.
Is the notion that it's 2024 and we're talking about human trafficking?
It's insane.
It's insane to me. I mean, it's just mind-numbing. Now, I guess, a lot of it has to do with the border and a lot of the cartels. And, the cartels are a business that will just do business with anything
Well,
at
they'll
any
exploit
time.
anything. Now
Anything,
the cartels are involved in scamming seniors who have timeshares in Mexico. And what they're saying is, we have a way to get you out of this timeshare, and we can give it. And they're taking, in some cases, the life savings of senior citizens in this country. So the cartels will get involved in anything that makes them money,
Right.
Whether it's, fentanyl, human trafficking, or scamming people who are elderly who have timeshares. So they're ruthless, and every single crime category internationally, without exception, has some involvement in human trafficking
Really?
because it's profitable and there's a never-ending supply of it. So if you're a gun runner, there's an element of human trafficking. If you're a fentanyl seller, trafficker, there's an element of human trafficking. There is in every category of crime in this world.
Yeah, it's sad, and how much of it takes place in the United States, but solely with Americans versus an international flavor, sort of coming over here.
I can't give you an exact percentage, but there's a healthy amount or an unhealthy amount of human trafficking that goes on in this country, and it takes different forms. It's a broad net that we cast when we say human trafficking. It's the pimp in Las Vegas who's running 4 or 5 women against their will, or maybe they start by agreeing to do it, but then they want out. It's the organized crime syndicate that is smuggling people in illegally and putting them to work to make money from them in the sexual trade, like we saw in the Polk County investigation.
Has the government of Mexico just fully lost a grip to the cartels, and is that Mexico now just a narco state?
I think there's an uneasy truce. Every time an administration in Mexico says, we're cracking down, we're putting an end to this, the blowback is bloody, violent, and immediate. Now, that's not saying they shouldn't go after the cartels, but I remember 15 years ago, 12 years ago, being in Juarez, Mexico, and being at an orphanage where they took care of kids whose parents were killed in the drug wars, whether they were cartel members or law enforcement. All these kids were being cared for in this orphanage. And I said, well, how do you safely get supplies? And they said, well, they're checkpoints. And they said, we'd rather deal with the cartels because they'd let us go through. It's some of the law enforcement agencies that are corrupt that we worry about. So that's what they do. It's a Robin Hood situation. So they, in certain parts of Mexican culture, they've come to grips with the fact, okay, these guys, as long as we let them alone, they make their money, they make the fentanyl in their labs, they send it to America, that's their problem. But that's the mindset there. And the cartels know that if they just go holy hell and use insane amounts of violence and decapitate some people and roll the heads through Cabo once or twice, they'll back off. It's insane.
It seems like we're going to need to do something at some point.
We will need to do something at some point. Again, we spent weeks and weeks in Mexico on this. And I remember flying in with the federal police to go on a raid in this rickety old 727, landed at the small airport and went up in the mountains and they arrested a bunch of people. But they scatter, they reconfigure, they war against each other.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's become so ingrained in the culture that it's difficult for them to eradicate.
Yeah. The silver or the lead, they always say.
Yeah.
That's basically your choice. Most people take the silver because that's how human wiring
That's how you
is.
survive.
I don't know any way around it. They do talk about is labeling the cartels terrorist organizations, in which case we could do something if that was their designation.
Sure.
But either way, a stout border would be a good start for this American. All right, what else you got?
Well, did you watch the Quiet on the Set docuseries?
I've watched part of it. It's very compelling and very important.
That's
and
the Nickelodeon?
It's a
Nickelodeon,
Nickelodeon one, Dan Schneider and all that. And, for that actor Drake Bell to come out and talk about this was very brave and very important. And I think it speaks to just like, when we do these predator investigations, when you have an environment where adults have unregulated and ungoverned access to vulnerable children, in this case, who have to perform to get their paycheck and to get the validation and approval of adults, you better regulate that situation. Because what was going on there is, by all accounts, and I've done documentaries like this. I know what goes into it. And the producers, directors of this documentary did a damn fine job of exposing this.
I don't trust anyone who wants to spend time with kids ever in any way, shape, or form. I just don't trust them.
In this case, you'd be right in many examples.
I say in my act, every once in a while, I'll go, look, here's how we weed these guys out. We have the Cub Scout meeting. You got the 8-year-olds running around. You got the dads hanging around. And you go, all right, somebody's got to take these kids camping up to Mount Pinos for 3 nights. Who is it? I said, first guy's hand that goes up, Steve, you're out.
You're out.
You're out. Bob, you're doing it. And then he starts complaining that it's the playoffs this weekend and his team's in the playoffs. I go, keep complaining.
Yeah.
Because you're taking those kids.
Yeah,
I don't trust people that write children's books, even though Jay Leno and Jimmy Kimmel have written children's books. I don't trust anyone that programs for kids. I don't want anyone who does anything around
want reluctancy.
Kids. Yes. Yeah.
So I didn't share any of the Kate Middleton conspiracies when it was going on.
Yes.
It was it was really weird. You had that Photoshop picture. TMZ was all over it, talking about they think they saw her in a car. They think they saw her walking down the street.
Yeah.
All these things. Well, it's finally come out why she hasn't been around, and it's because she has been diagnosed with cancer.
Okay. This is a teachable moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing I said when I heard about this story is I talked to my friend, Dr. Drew. He said, you do not go into the hospital for 3 weeks unless there's something critically wrong, big time. He said, I know a guy, 70, had to have his whole big valve replaced and a whole aortic chamber, whatever. 3 days he was in the hospital. He said, She's in a hospital for 2 or 3 weeks. This is a major, major thing. She has something very serious. And then you turn on the late night shows and they're all laughing and poking fun at her. Where's Waldo and stuff? And I'm like, why are you fucking around? Everyone's making fun of her. She has a very serious condition. This is something very dire, or she wouldn't be in the hospital for 2 or 3 weeks as a youngish woman. And then it became this open fodder where like everyone just made jokes about her. And I was like, you guys really shouldn't make her the butt of your jokes.
It
She's
made
going
me
through
very
something very
uncomfortable.
serious.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
And then the news came
out. But you're
out.
right.
But that's I didn't say anything.
It's a teachable moment.
Yes.
And let her have this struggle with some privacy.
Find Dawson. I think you can find Colbert. I think he's was doing like a running
that's
joke.
right. He was
And
leading in
I
all the
was like,
conspiracies.
this is a woman who's very ill, who has young children.
It made me very uncomfortable.
And why is she the butt of your jokes?
The View has already apologized.
Oh, they've already.
Because they.
What
they
is
were
the
leaning into it.
inclination, though? Somebody has something horrible. First off, speak to physician. The first thing out of Dr. Drew's mouth, 3 weeks, hospital, that's major. It's just something very major, and he said cancer, too. That's what he said. And I go, okay, he's a physician. He's seen enough. I'll trust him. Why doesn't anyone else just do that? You just go on The View and you make fun of her? It's like an ongoing running joke to someone who's very ill. I mean, look, you can say whatever you want about anyone anytime. That's fine. But what I'm saying is why do you think this is fertile soil for comedy?
It's not like she puts herself out there to make herself a target, right?
Right.
She's not in the clubs. She's not doing anything risque. She's the princess. She's married to the future king. She's got children. She's in her 40s. She goes in the hospital. Give her some respect. She didn't go in for a nose job.
And you can speculate as to why she's in the hospital, but you can't make fun of her.
No, it's news. And to take it as far, I don't even want to get into what some people said about the situation and rumors and speculation and innuendo, because it's not worth even getting into. And again, nobody's going to argue for the First Amendment more aggressively than me.
That's right.
But there's a common sense element here.
Yes,
There's a taste
common
element. We're not
it's a
chasing a
decency.
predator who tried to get with a 15-year-old girl. We're not chasing a cartel scam artist who's trying to steal the money from an elderly San Diego resident. We're talking about somebody who's trying to live their life, right? And they bought into it when she got into the royal family. I get it, right? And there's this whole notion of you pose, we pay. But this is different. This is a medical situation. And if somebody stole her medical records at that hospital, they should fry. They should make an
fry's a good
absolute
word for you.
example. Exactly. Fry.
Penis and fry.
Right.
Pocket.
I have
penis,
glottal
fry.
frying. That's a real condition.
Do we have the Colbert video? Woman with young kids.
Right.
I don't know why this is it just shouldn't be fodder. I mean, look, I can tell there's plenty of things that are in bad taste. I tell plenty of jokes that are in bad taste.
Yep.
But hold on, Chris.
Sorry.
But the point is they live somewhere. There's some base in something. You can make jokes, but I don't know why everyone thought it would be a good idea. Like if I was in the writer's room, I'd just go, first off, she could die.
Right.
And then you'd feel like shit. I don't know if the ladies from The View had to apologize. The ladies from The View should learn a fucking lesson when they attack people all the time.
Whoopi actually said we should mind our own business during this, and they all came back saying we should have listened to Whoopi.
Okay. When Whoopi's the voice of reason at your table, that is a very hysterical table. When Whoopi Goldberg she's Solomon, the voice of reason at that table. That is bad.
I think there's a danger when you get into this creep and you just assume because it's the royal family, you can say whatever you want. And there have been embarrassing moments for members of the royal family, unquestionably, and leaks that have been, worthy of pursuing and making a big deal out of. This is not one of them. This is a young woman in her 40s with kids who now we know has cancer.
Right.
So you got to give some space.
And people feel like they deserve information. So if they don't get it, then they just act like this.
Yeah, I don't feel I deserve any of this information.
Right.
Ever.
Oh, it's to the point now where even she released the video talking about it, where she's sitting on the bench. She's talking about being diagnosed and why she didn't tell anybody. Well, people are saying, "Oh, that's AI."
Oh.
And they want that conspiracy. Like, we need conspiracies.
I don't know
there
why.
are people who think I'm a lizard person because I don't buy into Pizzagate. I mean, there's plenty of weird stuff if you want to look hard enough for it, you know.
Yeah. All right. So the city of Laverne. We were talking about that city for a few months back when that female cop was having all the sexual relationships with her coworkers.
Oh,
You remember
yeah.
that? Mm-hmm. Well, the city of Laverne has just settled a lawsuit with her because she claimed that her supervisors were sexually grooming her, and they settled for $500,000.
$500,000 she got
Yeah.
because she was groomed.
Yes.
Is there a cutoff for grooming? Like, can you be groomed past the age of 30? I guess is what I'm.
I think you get into a.
Yeah.
There must have been wrongdoing on both sides,
Right, I mean, if
because
you-
otherwise, a city lawyer doesn't say, "Okay, give her
Yeah,
the money out of insurance
we're
policy."
kind of in the we're now in the part of life where, well, the guy was trying to break into your warehouse at night, but you put a spike strip on the skylight and he got tetanus, so you got to give him some money.
Right.
And sort of like,
No, he shouldn't have broken in.
That's
right.
where I'm at. All right, Chris, let me give you a plug. True Crime Nation with Chris Hansen, streaming on TruBlu, streaming network, and then, of course, Phil Heath. Got a very good doc out. I recommend that as well. Podcasts. Predators I've caught with Chris Hansen. And Chris, anytime you want to come back and
I appreciate
hang
it.
out,
Always a pleasure.
Please.
Thank you for having me, as always.
always
And,
a
We'll
privilege.
keep an eye on Kanye.
Yeah.
Diddy. I'm sorry.
Or
Diddy.
both.
Or both, yeah. I'm going to be in Reno this Saturday. Leno's going to be there, and we're going to do the whole Paul Newman race car collection. So that's at the National Automobile Museum. That'll be Saturday. And then I'm going to be in Chicago and Salt Lake City and Bakersfield. And just go to adamcarolla.com for all the live shows. Until next time, it's Adam for Chris and Phil and Chris saying mahalo.